Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live June 14th, 2017. You almost had to look through the crappy webcam camera again. So, first, I hope this is all working correctly because I'm on my MacBook. I'll tell you where my iMac is in a minute. But I need to get the chat window open so I can see what you all are saying. That's right over here. I hope this is all working correctly. Sounds like it is. This is that weekly show. Mostly weekly show that I share with you the week's news, what we've been up to, my hopes and dreams for the future. You all chat about potatoes and cilantro and other things. And I critique a few of your photos, pick some Instagram winners, share Roy's Instagram, not winners, highlights, and all that other stuff. Sorry, I'm starting a little late today. So last week I got home from my trip. And you know, my iMac, 27-inch, fully spec'd out, not the iMac Pro because I bought this thing about 18 months ago. I won't be buying the iMac Pro anytime soon unless cash rains out of the sky. Had been acting a little slow and laggy. I had mentioned that, I think, on this trip. I felt like, or sorry, on the show in the past. And distracted by so many ladies in the house. And I said I was getting close to reinstalling, gonna wipe it and reinstall. Well, it was acting really funny when I got home. And then I rebooted it, and actually it crashed. I rebooted it and I got the black screen with a blinking folder question mark. Spent a little time on tech support with Apple and confirmed that my hard drive had gone bad. No worries about loss of data. I have everything backed up always. I actually really don't even have anything on the hard drive that is important to me between Dropbox and my external drives that hold my photos and my videos. It's no worry. But took it to the iMac store, the Apple store, carried it through the mall. Big old thing walking down the mall. It's heavy. Poor me. $530 for them to replace a 256 gigabyte SSD. Oh, man, that's a lot. That's a lot. But that's life, I guess. So, and I called last night and I was like, how's it doing? And they're like, oh, we're still waiting on the part. Come on. Now, this is one of those places where it does drive me crazy that it's Apple, because pretty much any PC laptop, any PC desktop, you pop the back off, put a new SSD in. I could have it overnighted from Prime. I bet I could even have one delivered same day. I'm getting a new cable modem delivered today that I ordered hours ago from Amazon. But the glass has to come off the front of that iMac, and the internal, everything except for the RAM is accessed under the glass. And so they suction cup that off there. That is not something I want to mess with. So I am not doing that myself. Plus the time and effort. So I'm certainly willing to pay something for repair. I understand that, but man, $532 feels a little high, So hopefully it'll be done soon and it will be back to me. Let me pop out this chat because right now what I see down here is my talking to you all like 30 seconds ago. So let's close that and I have the chat popped out. Good, and I'm glad some of you are at least talking about what I'm talking about so that I know you can actually listen to me. I'm sorry for the little bit of a late start. I had already tested GH4 connected into the MacBook. Worked great this morning. Fired it up a few minutes ago. Only the black screen that I had that other day. Restarted, black screen, blah, blah, blah. Got it working. Here we are. How's everybody doing? It's been a little bit of a while because excuse me, I've been away now for 2 weeks. It was a fairly awesome, I'd say close to epic camping trip for Fiona and I that then led into the McKay trip with Animals of Montana and the Grand Tetons. And, I think this comes across some in the video. I always end up cutting so much footage out. And there's so much stuff that I don't capture, like the hysterical moments of a huge number of mosquitoes in the car, everybody freaking out in a hilarious way. it was fun. But so to be able to share this trip with Fiona and have her come along and have it be a portion of the Animals of Montana and have her get to sit in the baby wolf pen. Now, there are some pictures we're not allowed to share because liability reasons. We can't share pictures of my daughter cuddling wolves, cuddling baby wolves. Can't share pictures of like 5 baby wolves clambering on her, licking her face, chewing on her shoes, on her sweatshirt. She told me she's never washing her sweatshirt again. She also told me that you don't really wash sweatshirts anyway. I said, how long have you had this sweatshirt? About 2 years. She's washed it once. Okay, anyway. So it was a really, really cool experience. And just really glad to have shared that with her. And the trip was fantastic. I've said this before. It's so much fun when you all come along. And I know not everybody can come along. It's not free unless you win, like Tim did. It's a time commitment. But more and more of you are coming along on these trips that have been fans of mine or friends of mine for years. And it's just really cool and fun to hang out and talk cameras, talk family, all that stuff. These smaller trips, we are drivers ourselves. We rent like a series of minivans. This one, we had 3 minivans. And so, you know, I'm a driver, David's a driver, Allie driver. And it's just kind of like a weird, wacky family driving down the road in a minivan, which I really wish I'd included some of the minivan in the vlog. But because it was the new Chrysler Pacifica with buttons that did all kinds of things. Adi almost killed my daughter by pushing the button that folds the seat rest down in the back. My daughter's sitting back there reading her little book, and all of a sudden, she's getting sandwiched into the seat. She was okay, but that was kind of funny. So I actually washed the sweatshirt once too after we got done camping because we smelled like a campfire. But so overall, it was a great time, and that was fantastic. I had never been to the Grand Tetons, Grand Teton National Park. And as Ursula mentioned, they are, it's French word for basically tits of the earth. Those poor French explorers and trappers, man, they had been out there without women for months and months at a time. So they saw these big pointy mountains, and that was the first thing that came to their mind. Just like any other man. I believe it was Tim who said that these mountains should be illegal. They are the equivalent of a naked woman standing on the side of the road. Because how can you, his point was, how can you be expected to drive down this road and not crash? Because seriously, those mountains are epic. There are a lot of beautiful mountains all over the place, but one of the things that makes the Grand Teton National Park special is that those mountains are young, very large and sharp. And when I said young, then made me think of breasts again for a second. Oh man, sorry. They are epic, and you can basically go right up to them. They just climb out of this valley floor, this valley plain. So it's very awesome. I would love to see some other places in the world that are like that. Like Switzerland comes to mind. I know as I've flown over Switzerland a couple of times now, you get these beautiful valleys, and then the mountains just rise dramatically right there. This episode brought to you by Brisk Iced Tea. I found it in the fridge. Actually, it came home from the trip. It has disgusting things in it, but it's cold and I'm going to drink it. So I think right now it's just me and Roy and a bunch of ladies. It's good. I like that. All right. What else do I need to talk about? So we had a great trip. Fiona used the Canon T6S with the old Sigma 18-50. This is the very old one. It was the first lens that I bought for my Rebel XT. And she used the 55-250 STM. I bought that refurbished a few days before the trip because I was like, well, she needs a longer lens. I'm not going to make her carry my 70-200 f2.8 for many reasons. And that lens performed really well. And it was like $140 on Amazon, refurbished. And somewhere around here is its little warranty. What is the warranty on refurbished stuff? 1 year. That's pretty awesome. So I recommend refurbished gear. I think it's a great way to get a decent lens for cheap if you can find it. And, you know, I bought it off of Amazon. And again, you know, 2-day delivery at that price. I have to stand up straight or I'm caught off. So then I think I already said the Grand Teton Adventure was great. That vlog is out. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. Share it with your friends. Also, while I was on that trip, the video about gear for carrying your camera video went out, which I'm pretty proud of. You know, the Camera Store TV guys did one a week or two earlier. In my defense, I had already recorded mine. Theirs is pretty funny. It made me laugh out loud a couple of times with their kind of like antics of Jordan stealing the camera gear. And I also thought it was great, Chris talking the same thing about the cotton carrier vest kind of geekiness level. I feel the same about the spider holster level stuff. But I really like that video because it really is kind of how I've arrived at how I carry my gear today. That backpacker clip on my strap is my absolute favorite system right now. I really like that. And when I need a little more protection, that kind of Mind Shift gear holster system. So, yeah. All right. Just me and some women talking about the Tetons. Maxence, you're French. You know all about the Tetons. And this is also that period of time where we stick in Week in Review, a Shutterstock update. How is my Shutterstock doing? This is that segment of the show where I basically make excuses for not having uploaded other images in the recent history. But look at this. I've had a little jump in the earnings. Not enough that I think I'll be canceling Patreon, your support anytime soon. But oh my gosh, where do I share my screen? Right here. But still, I think last we checked, I was at $18 or $19. Now I'm up at $26.83. $26.83. And I think the other interesting thing to look at is look at the earnings summary and subscription. So this sunrise picture is still leading the way with 11 downloads, but this owl, which has only been up here since February versus the sunset October, has up to 7 downloads now and made me $1.75. And this is the one where I cut out. I show you how to select and clean up the background. So I think that is key for some stock images. You know, there's going to be copy content around it. And so to give your whoever's taking this an easy way to stick text on it without it looking fuzzy and, you know, fitting into the brochure, I think works really well. Okay, sorry, I got to stand up straight if we can't see my mouth. Maxence is a Teton expert. Have you been there, Maxence? Speaking literally to Grand Tetons, not just Tetons. It is a fantastic place. So I do want to get more images up here. I think I'll get a few more from Yellowstone and the Yosemite trip. I'll get a few more animal ones because, you know, that ability to, here, let's do this. Let's move this down a tiny bit. Oh, I can slouch. That ability to get so close to those animals and get some of that shots, I think are great. And now see the chat room, I can't quite tell if you're talking about figuratively or literally whether Maxence has experienced Tetons or the Tetons. So we'll just leave it at that. Stop sharing my screen. And we'll move into the news. I'm going to run through these fairly quickly because even though I got a late start, I do need to try to get out of here by 3 to make sure I can take Henry. I got to make up. I took Fiona on an epic trip. I got to make sure that Henry feels as loved. My son, he's in the other room right now. And so we're taking him to the local cool museum tonight. So news. A7 Mark III spec. So this is the straight A7, not an R or an S. 3 specs have been confirmed, and it is confirmed that it will have the A9 joystick. That is great news. I haven't seen this other than Roy sharing it in the news here. So what's SR5? That is a second trusted source. Okay, so this is a very, this is a high level. SR5, almost certainly correct. I don't think there's anybody in the chat room that shoots Sony. And so we'll be brief on this, but the fact that they're going to work that little nubby joystick into these the A7 line is fantastic news. So right here, here's my A7R. I love what comes out of this camera. I don't love using it so much, and there's no good way to select a focus point. It's this button, it's this trackpad here, or directional wheel, but it does multiple duties. And so anything on any camera that has more than one job, it's not very good, because sometimes you go to press it and you actually end up in that job, and other times you go to press it, you end up in the job you want. You need consistency. This camera has taken me longer to get used to than any other camera I've ever put my hands on. But again, I love the quality of the output, except maybe the stars. We'll talk about that in a second. And so for them to add that in means they'll add it into the A7R and the A7S. So that's good news. It's also supposed to have the same autofocus features as the A9. That's also quite huge, because it is a seriously impressive autofocus machine. It will have 4K recording, and it will launch this fall. So it's going to be interesting to see where this price comes in and how it compares to the 6D Mark II, which should be announced a little later this summer and probably shipping in early fall as well. So Heather, you're looking for a 5D Mark III or II? Mark II for a 500 to 600 range. That should be doable. That should be doable. That's backup. Yeah. I keep going back and forth about whether I should sell my 5D Mark III. I so rarely use it, and it feels like it's kind of an expensive camera that if I'm not using it regularly, I shouldn't hold on to it. But I know as soon as I let it go, I'm going to say, oh, I wanted to test this lens or that lens, and testing them adapted on a Sony is not the same thing. So I haven't done that yet. All right, next news source. As I mentioned, Sony mirrorless cameras still eat stars. This is kind of a complicated, specific thing that sometimes I hate the internet, because it brings us down these little rabbit holes that people hear about and are like, oh no, that's the worst. And it is the worst for such a small percentage of the population. But I do include myself in that. So basically, here's what's happening. Sony has gotten some deservedly bad press over the last couple of years for producing cameras that give you raw images that aren't completely uncompressed raw images. Do you remember that? The first RAWs that came with the A7R II were compressed, and you didn't really see much of a difference except in a couple of specific conditions, shooting conditions. So they gave us uncompressed, but there are still a bunch of really complicated algorithms going on in the background that take data out of the RAW, is the best way to say it. Their goal is to take noise out. And so when you shoot longer exposure, it seems at some point Sony introduced a fairly aggressive, I'm going to really simplify this, because one, if I try to explain it exactly as it is, I'll screw up because it's so complicated. I don't completely understand it. And two, we don't need to spend a ton of time talking about it. Basically, Sony introduced some algorithms that somebody's knocking on the door. Let's see if Henry can just answer. Oh, maybe I should go. Hang on. It's okay. That's the model of professionalism. Okay, so they introduced some features to help with longer exposures, clean them up, noise, etc. Downside is they seem to see some of the dimmer stars as noise. And so this term of eating stars means that after this algorithm runs and we have no way of turning it off, you get fewer stars. I've shot lots of stars with this camera when it has had the firmware that is the issue, and I'm happy with the shots. But when I look at this data, it certainly looks like they could be a little bit better, especially if I really was shooting lots of multiple exposures that I then wanted to stack. I haven't done that yet. I would like to experiment with that. It's a goal of mine before the Joshua Tree star photography trip in mid-August. So this camera is still a decent camera to shoot the stars with because it does well at high ISOs and it gives you 42 megapixels. But the gist of it is truly in some kind of longer exposures, your resolution is actually reduced to something like 18 megapixels after this algorithm runs. So a lot of people wrote in about it, and see, I don't know how many is a lot, because again, this is fairly specific, and it's not just shooting the stars, it's shooting longer exposures of dimmer stars that get eaten. So there was a lot of hope that it would be fixed in firmware 4.0, but accordingly, it isn't really. So, yeah. But are the stars left sharp? Yes, the stars are left sharp. It doesn't mess with the stars themselves, just some of the dimmer ones disappear, as Ursula was asking. So basically some end up missing as noise reduction kicks in, thinking it's dust. Yeah, see? Yeah, that was UPS with Amazon, and I believe Henry could have handled it fine, but because Archer's there and he can be a little funny with dudes, I didn't want him to get Archer to start eating somebody in front of Henry. That would be traumatic. Okay. 14 hidden Lightroom shortcuts that use the Alt and Option key. I recently learned about holding down the Alt/Option key when using the brush, putting it into minus mode. So I am interested in going through this real quick. Is it a goodie? No, I think it's actually for Chris, and I think that means that it is to share everything with you. Not that it's that exciting. I think it's a rat trap, because we've got some rats that run around in the backyard. They're very common here in Seattle, that are eating bits of our garden. And so our goal is to trap those suckers and take them to somebody else's yard. Okay, so these shortcuts work in the right-hand panels of the Develop module. If you hold down the Alt or Option key to reveal the option to reset sliders, click on a reset command to return the sliders below it to 0. This shortcut is useful in resetting multiple sliders with just one click. Hey, we should try these in a few minutes. So that's cool, because a lot of times, does it work in the brushes? These shortcuts work in the right-hand panels in the Develop module, except the Tone Curve panel. Nice, because there are times where I'll open up a brush and it has crazy settings from a previous time. Okay. Reset radial and gradient filters. Yeah. So again, you hold down the Alt Option key and you should get a reset button here on the left-hand side. Did you all know about these? Activate and deactivate solo mode. That's where you can open up just one panel at a time. So with one panel open, you click on the panel to close it and leave, close the others and leave that panel open. So that can really kind of clean up that clutter on the right. Move between the adjustment brush and the erase brush. This is the one I learned recently. So you're working on the adjustment brush. You realize that even though you have auto mask turned on, you've gone too far outside of your lines. You hold down the Alt key, and now your adjustment brush is the erase brush, and you can erase. Center the crop overlay. When you click the crop overlay icon, grab a corner of the crop and drag the mouse. The crop overlay remains anchored to the opposite corner. It looks something like this. But hold the Alt Option key down when you grab a corner, drag the mouse, and Lightroom keeps the crop overlay centered. This is useful if you're cropping as a kind of digital zoom. Nobody ever does that. I do it all the time. It may also be useful if you're cropping to eliminate vignetting caused by the wrong lens hood or too many filters stacked on the lens. It looks like this. Good. Making fine adjustments in the tone curve. Hold down the Alt Option key while you make tone curve adjustments to slow the mouse drag speed down. This lets you make finer adjustments. I have to say, reading through this list makes me really feel like they've thought these things through, Lightroom. Good job. Visualizing post-crop vignette. Hold the Alt Option key down while you move the midpoint roundness, feather, or highlight sliders. This shows the effect with the amount slider set to its maximum. Okay. If the amount slider has a negative value, Lightroom sets it to -100, so it jumps it. And it has a positive value, it jumps it to +100. Never go positive, people, with vignette. Friends don't let friends go plus 100 on vignette or plus anything. That's actually not true. The other day I did +1 because I had some serious vignetting from a circular polarizer on, and +1 kind of removed that. Batch update process version, show the default set default button. The reset button, you can set it to default. This brings it up to the reset Adobe default settings. Okay. Show clipping with exposure, highlight, shadows, whites, and black sliders in the panel. So as you're moving those, if you hold down Alt, you get this black and white or white and color shown against the dark background. Show 100% hue in the split toning panel. I know Roy has a post about split toning. We've talked about it. I so rarely can get it to do anything that is useful to me. Show a sharpening preview in the detail panel. How many more of these are they? Noise reduction preview in the detail panel. See where, this is nice. See where chromatic aberration removal is being applied in the lens correction panel. And conclusion. Nice. Those are some helpful, good suggestions for ways to use the Alt Option key. Let's try to remember a few of those and do that when I'm in and critiquing images. So, Charlena points out that a lot of that stuff is programmed into her pen because she's using a Wacom tablet. Thank you for that. Roy doesn't have an article about split toning, just talked about it as a discussion. Okay, that's right. All right, just a reminder that all of these show notes we're talking about, like you want to see more, I went too fast on those Alt options for you, then you can go find them in the link right down below this video, including the first photo shared from a phone just turned 20 years old. Wow, okay. Verizon now owns Flickr through its $4.48 billion Yahoo acquisition. Anybody in the group right now seriously still use Flickr? I know people do. I don't think this group does too much. I don't know what they're going to do with it. It doesn't really fit into Verizon's properties so well. Did it ever with Yahoo either? I don't know. How and why to register your photo equipment when you leave the US. Never looked at that. Popular backup service Backblaze offers an updated look at their hard drive failure rates. Maybe I should have looked at that before I bought them. No, the SSD is the SSD that came in it. But that's always interesting to look at because they have so many. Oh, Amazon killing off its $60 a year plan for unlimited storage. This I'm bummed about because I had been using them as a backup for everything. And I had almost 3 terabytes of data up there. And now they've killed that program and there are no plans, even if I wanted to pay them $1 billion a month, there are no plans for storage space above, I think it was 1 terabyte, maybe 2. So I got to figure out what I want to do about that. And maybe just go back to local backups and offsite backup as best I can, because as I generate a lot of video files, photos all backed up online, easy, no problems, but video files, not so much. And then we've got polar photographer Paul Nicken on the impacts of climate change. I recently shared, if you don't follow me on my personal Facebook, actually, I think everybody who's in the chat and watches this, you can be friends with me as well. I'm happy to be your friend on Facebook, facebook.com/TobiasG. Pretty much everything I post is publicly on Facebook, with very few exceptions, because I feel like if I'm bothering to post it out there, I should be sharing it with the whole world. And plus, I don't trust Facebook to keep it private anyway, so I'm not going to be posting secrets on there just for my friends. It's for everybody. But I recently posted 7 climate change facts you should know. It's very short and sweet, slightly depressing, but I had somebody argue that said, well, there's this NASA article from 2015 that refutes this. No, it doesn't. If you actually read the NASA article, it says that, yes, there's a small section of the Antarctic ice sheet that is growing, but that's because the air is warmer down there and can hold more moisture. And in other places, it's all still shrinking. And it's happening. So, it's not a giant conspiracy, people. I don't know why some people think it is. Anyway, So Paul Nicken, he is an amazing National Geographic photographer who has spent years of his life photographing in the North and South Pole. That's why he's called a polar photographer, tracking bears. I follow him on Instagram. I mean, what an amazing photographer he is, adventurer. And, you know, this is the person who's been there. Now, I think it's really interesting. Somebody like Dave McKay, who has traveled all over the world, had up until a point been fairly skeptical about whether or not climate change was really caused by humans. How much was it happening? It sounds like, here's the thing. If you don't, I have a science background, and I think that helps me critically analyze. I'm going off task here, but hey, it's my show. I'm going to do that. Critically analyze where the sources are coming from. And you see these certain shows and they're like, these scientists disagree with climate change. And you say, well, who are they? And then you look, they're like a psychologist, and they're, you know, they're not people that know. When you look at climate change scientists, climatology scientists, earth core scientists, people who know, they're almost all in agreement. And sure, there's a couple of them that are in disagreement. That's what science is. But the clear majority, like a majority beyond majority, almost a complete majority. No, that's not the same thing. Almost complete, what's this, on the same page. Anyway, agreement, almost complete agreement between everyone is that it's happening and we're causing it. And I'd say, let's step back for a second and say, even if we're not causing it, don't we want to have cleaner air and cleaner water anyway? Let's say we have nothing to do with global warming. It still would be nice to have fewer emissions from our cars and our factories so that we step outside and we smell fresh air all the time, even if you live deep inside a city. Wouldn't it be nice? Why are we fighting that? Because we think economically it's bad? Okay. I'm going to stop there. Oh, but let me finish. So David McKay, kind of a skeptic. Then he went on that Antarctica trip and talked to those people that have gone on trips year after year, the ones that run the trip, and said, this is happening. These are changes we've seen with our eyes, and we should be more cognizant about what we're doing. Okay. Let's make a segue. Someday we might have to leave Earth because we burnt it to a crisp. So we should be prepared to be able to take and see photos from space. There he is. The guy whose name I can't remember. So we have an incredible image that shows the International Space Station passing in front of the sun. I feel like we've looked at a similar picture at some time. We didn't look at this one, though, because it was posted June 12th, 2017, 2 days ago. So this is actually pictures from Earth of things in space. So look at this cool picture. It is the International Space Station. I'm just saying the title again. Passing in front of the sun, transecting the sun, if you will. It looks like a little TIE fighter to me. That's no moon. So this incredible composite image shows the International Space Station's transit past the sun was taken at that place in Slovakia, close to the Hungarian border and 150 kilometers northeast of Budapest. That's a lot of geography for us. So, but look, there's even a teeny bit of it right there and there. Very, very cool. This makes me think a little bit about the solar eclipse. I've decided that it's not going to work for me to get to Oregon. David and I are the only instructors on that Joshua Tree. I think it was partly my fault for scheduling it at that point and not thinking about the eclipse. So I'll miss it. I hope somebody gets lovely video that I can watch. I'm bummed. But maybe there'll be one in the future, in the not too distant future, that I can watch as well. All right. What else do we need to talk about? Instagram. We are starting. Everybody still with me? Major Tom, we are starting year 3 of these Instagram challenges. That's pretty awesome. I've been doing this for a while. Yeah. This week's challenge was animals. Roy, I don't know if you planned. Did you plan that so well, Roy? Again, thanks for keeping all of this stuff going, Roy. With the McKay trip coming up, did you know that way back when you planned it, or did it just happen to work out? Either way, it's great. So Trelina, I was disappointed that I didn't see any pictures of your children in there, because I think I saw a Facebook post from you at some point that said, could you include your children as animals? It's nice now that mine are a little bit more grown. They rarely act like animals, but Henry eats like an animal, like a starving, just woke from hibernation bear all the time. 10-year-old boys. Who knew? All right. There were some fantastic, even though Trelina's beautiful daughters were not part of the group of animal shots, there were a fantastic selection of animals. And I might have at some point had them open, but then in restarting my computer. So let me get these open real quick. Why I just say, it's just great, one, to see the participation, and two, to just see how, oh man, wrong clicking. I hold down the option button. I meant to click the other one. How far some of you have come in your photography over the last couple of years. I'm not going to say that I'm solely responsible for that, but it is really cool to see your progression. Let's start with my first honorable pick. Let's make it a little bigger. Does that make all of them bigger? I think so. Here we go. Sharing screens. Okay. Roger, you have been killing it with your birds in flight, and I think that this duck is a perfect example. Just this bullseye bouquet in the background with this green, just the duck with a little bit more room in front of it, sharp to the tips of the wings, water droplets coming off the feet, the wing not covering the eye, right up to it, but not. These are all pieces that add up to what is a fantastic image. I love it. It's a great image. So sharp, so colorful. It's fantastic. Love it, Roger. Thank you. Becky had entered 2 this week. I liked both a lot. Her other of the giraffe just gave just a sense of Africa and its kind of space, because there is this giant giraffe off in the distance and it just looks kind of small, and that's neat. But I ultimately chose this one, Becky, because a couple of things. One, I hear this from time to time when people see us go on these trips. They say, we all go to these same places. Don't you all get the same picture? Man, I saw Becky's picture the other day and I was like, wow, we saw these guys in Africa. I don't have any good pictures of these guys. And then I remembered where we were for this. And, I was just I think I arrived, a few minutes after you or a few minutes before you. We weren't in the same vehicle, but we were close. But your light and your framing here are just so lovely. And I think you just did a nice job post-processing it, just kind of emphasizing those things. Just a very nice, very clean picture. Just a lot of Africa. We got a lot of stuff going on in the background, and your ability to frame him within the water and the kind of watering hole. Really nice. Nicely done, Becky. And then Heather, I think you're in the chat still, Heather. This, your dog, he is a fantastic looking goof. And I'm just going to give you mad props for, I think this is as technically challenging as Roger's duck, other than except you maybe can make him run towards you multiple times, even if he does stop at your legs or slamming into your legs. But we've got open eyes, we've got sharp face, but we got some fall off in the background. The nice kind of golden grassy stuff contrasts nicely with his kind of, what color would you say that is? Slate brown, making up colors, I don't know. But just, this look and the fact that we got the eyes open looking right at us, I think this is a fantastic shot. Roy picked Ben's as one of his highlights. I also would have picked it if Roy hadn't. I think just, again, our kind of framing here, it's a little different. I think if somebody said, I want to shoot a crab and, on this rocky thing, I think I would have said, put him up here in this corner and have him look into the frame, but kind of down close to us. Like he's almost coming out of the frame, so sharp, so colorful, contrasting against those black lava rocks. Ben just went to the Galapagos. I'm very jealous of that. Very nicely done. Roy, you picked another one by Roger. bumblebee flying past some wild bramble flowers. Again, you know, who raise your hand if you've ever tried to photograph bees? They don't stay still very long, and they don't fly in predictable ways very often. So the fact that you got this guy sharp and parallel kind of coming out of this flower, very, very well done. And another from Heather. Wow, I didn't realize that we got, we only picked, what, 3 different extra people? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people out of 6 images. This is really cute. Just this little nose of a turtle. Box turtle, maybe? I don't know. But it's very cool. There were several others, excellent images in there. I have a few prizes. Really, I have some stuff laying around that I need to give away. I am going to randomly pick from somebody who participated last week, somebody who participated this week, and somebody who participates next week with some prize package options. Little things, maybe not actually so little. One of the things is an extra, I have an extra one of those dual ultralight backpacks. I don't need to keep that. I should give that away to somebody. So keep an eye out for that. If you're a winner, congratulations. I just need to make that announcement to let people know. Or maybe I'll just keep it quiet. And those people who have always just been participating will participate. Although I'd always like to see the participation up a little bit higher. We'll see. Yeah. Major Tom, as you said. Next week's challenge is travel. PRTV_travel. Remember, you don't have to go far for travel. You really don't even have to go out of your hometown. It's just someplace out and about beyond your yard, capturing something, maybe a little bit more of a story. That leads into our discussion. One thing that will make your photos better is storytelling. So this is an article on Petapixel. There's a video by Mango Street. It's one of the most important things you can learn to do as a photographer, which is storytelling. In addition to kind of organically capturing moments as they happen, you can also conceptualize and execute an idea that inspires you. And Rachel and Daniel show how it's done in the 5.5 minute video above. So then they kind of go through and talk about weak and sentimental, strong and heartless. Now they're really doing these kind of portrait shots, and you know, I think there's always some open to interpretation here, because the artist says this is what I mean by this, or sometimes you were supposed to figure out what an artist means when they show. But anytime that you can add elements into your image, this is, I think, what I want to boil down this idea into. Anytime you can add elements into your image that help you tell a story, it will be that much stronger. And when you look at the greats who have, you know, fantastic work and a fantastic body of work, there are these elements in their images that not only compositionally strengthen the image, but give you clues as to what the subject is thinking or dealing with or experiencing. So all, you know, all of these things, and it's hard. It doesn't work for all images. Let's, you know, Roger's flying duck picture. Is there a story element there? Not so much. It's still a fantastic image. So there are some images that it's really hard to tell a story, but anytime you can, I think you should. And anytime you're about to capture an image, you should think about what's in your frame, not only compositionally and rule of thirds and leading lines and all of the things that kind of make the image better, but you should also think about what you can include or exclude that will help you tell a story. Good? I think that's all I want to talk about in discussion. So let's go. Last week, Roy put out the show notes, the show list notes. That's what we should call them. And Larry had this question. He has taken several nightscapes in Paris, and he doesn't believe he's run into this issue before. His pictures of Paris from the top of the Montparnasse Tower, is that how you say it? Montparnasse Tower, do not appear sharp when I pixel peep zoom in. I've even gone back another night to the tower to see if I would get different results. All I can think of is that the Montparnasse tower sways in the wind, as does the Eiffel Tower, causing my pictures at such a long exposure to not be as sharp as I would like. And possibly the ground/platform at the top of the tower that my tripod was on moved when someone walked by. But I think I've taken some shots when nobody was in the vicinity walking. Please let me know what you think. All right, so he's got this image here. Can I make it bigger for you all? And even not zoomed in, you can really kind of see that it's not quite as sharp as it should be. Now, I've been to Paris once. I did not visit the Montparnasse Tower. I took a nice night shot of the Eiffel Tower from the top of what's that thing called? The Arc de Triomphe. My French is impeccable. And my shot is extremely sharp, and I love it. So I Googled Montparnasse Tower, and it is a kind of a skyrise type building. Let's see if we can get in this even a little bit more. I think it honestly doesn't look too bad here, but I've looked at this very carefully, and it certainly is not as sharp as it should be. So Roy, I think already you answered the same thing I'm thinking. One, you got to make sure your VC is off. There are certain long exposures when image stabilization is on in a lens. I've only had this affected in lenses. With Sony cameras that have it built into the stabilizer, I have not seen this happen. It seems to be smart enough, but some lenses at certain exposure lengths certainly will introduce a little bit of blurring. So I would want that off. Also, if you're shooting with a longer lens on a tripod, the lens should be mounted, not the camera. I've experienced this as well. With this lens mounted on my Sony, I have soft shots because I think the weight is just too much. So you should use the collar, and it should be mounted out here somewhere to be as stable as possible. And of course, you want to make sure that your tripod is as stable as possible. Don't have the center column up. Have just as tall as you need to get over the rail or the shot. No taller than that. And of course, use 2-second timer to trigger the camera, or a remote. Larry, I think you said some of this stuff. So I'm just kind of going down the checklist for people in general to keep an eye on how to get the sharpest shots from long exposure. So VC should be off. Tripod should be as stable as possible. Mount heavier gear on its lens mount, not on the body mount. And that should give you as sharp as shots as possible. Now, certainly, some buildings do move in the wind. The Arc de Triomphe is a very solid building, no movement. But on the higher floors of the Montparnasse, there could be some movement there. What I would do if I were you is shoot some long exposures at the same length of time at the ground level. And of course, while you're shooting them, don't be doing jumping jacks in the background. I know some people like to get in their exercise, but when I press that 2-second timer, I stand still. I don't care what kind of surface I'm on. I do not move around. One, because I'm a klutz, I might run into the camera. And two, even if the ground feels very solid, it's very easy to introduce just a little bit of movement that's going to soften one of these images. So I think that's all I got for that. I don't think anything else. Well, as I said, shoot off the building and see at the same kind of settings. You can't get this view, of course, but you could shoot down a street or something and see how do those compare. If it is sharp, then it probably was the building. If they aren't, make sure that VC or image stabilization is off. And still, if you're getting some inconsistent shots, that's concerning. We have to figure out why. Did you say what camera it was with? Did he say, Larry? I made this so big now. I don't know. Oops. I don't think you said. So I'm just curious what gear it was with. Any questions about that? How you doing, chat room? Lock the mirror up as well. That's a good point, Max Sense. Thank you. So I typically these days shoot longer exposures in live view. And then you don't have to worry about mirror lockup, because if you've got live view on a DSLR, that means that your mirror is already up. For those who don't know, you've got a mirror in your DSLR that flips up and down when you take a picture. This camera doesn't have a battery in, so I can't tell you. So if you don't want to shoot in live view, then you should use mirror lockup, and you turn that on, and what the camera does is flips the mirror up out of the way, which causes a little bit of vibration, but then it waits 2 seconds after the mirror flips up for that vibration to settle out for the shot to happen. There are some cameras, like the original Sony A7R had such a physical boom shutter that it was causing slight vibrations right there around the sensor and causing some soft issues in some cases. The greater the resolution of the sensor, the megapixels, the easier it is to see in some situations. So I always heard a tripod leg right under the lens. That certainly helps with kind of stability, but it doesn't, it doesn't help, make it any more less shaky, I would say. But it does mean that the camera won't tip forward because there's a leg balancing that heavier weight. But that's good too as well, Kate. All sounds good. That's what Has No Hair just said, Brenda. Good. Hi, Tim. Yeah, Willis Tower extends 20 feet. Roy said, either way with a wind. That's crazy. Have you all, here's something fun to watch. Galloping Gertie. It was the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in the, was it like 1950s, 1960s? They built it. And if you've never seen this, you've got to go watch this. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge, Galloping Gertie, they called it, because it was, you ever done this? Oh, look at this rubber band, a little science class. You got a rubber band? You ever blown on it? It starts to vibrate. The bridge did the same thing. It swayed. It had like waves on the bridge. And people are driving their little Model Ts, or by that time it was like Model X. I don't know what car they are. Roger, you got to tell us. They're driving it over these things. Well, one day the wind was just right that the bridge literally had like 6-foot waves in the concrete cement stuff. And it was twisted and people are driving on it. And then all of a sudden it all fell apart. And I think nobody died except maybe one dog. I can't remember if that's true. Watch that in science class. Okay. Let's critique a few photos. I'm going to wrap this puppy up. Let's open Lightroom. I'm really waiting for the next big version of Lightroom. One of the things, though, that I feel like I've nailed down, one of the most, I think, challenging things about Lightroom is if you manage 2 catalogs, a travel catalog and your home catalog. And I've had people suggest to me, just carry around one tripod, one hard drive that is your catalog, keep it synced. I don't love that. I don't love that. So I've been on my machine here. I have my catalog, and then I get home and I just plug it in and import from catalog and slurp those images from the travel catalog onto the master hard drive. Once I've done that, once I've confirmed that they're over, then I delete them from the laptop. That's been working fairly well for me, but man, I would love to have an even more simple way to come home and be like, I'm on my home network now, sync X, Y, and Z to my main catalog. It's almost there, but not quite. All right. Sip of tea. And critique and edit a few photos. Let's minimize that. Let's share my screen. Here we are. And let's put some of these Alt-Option key shortcuts to the test. So this is Adam. So I think everybody in the group saw this. Adam, you went out to shoot the stars, and it happened to be that night. You did not know this. This is so awesome. It happened to be the night where there were actually 2 nights in a row where we had some serious geomagnetic activity. The K-index was high enough that people as far south as, what was it, like South Dakota? That doesn't sound that far south. This is the Midwest, let's say. We're seeing northern lights. And Adam, I don't remember exactly where you were or where you are. If anybody knows in the chat room, you could say that. But you were someplace where you realized on these longer exposures on the back of the camera that there was aurora there. And then you started seeing it with the naked eye. And just a really cool shot that you got the reflection, because so far, the only times that I've seen the Northern Lights, except for when Chris and I were crossing the country last fall, it's been very cold and there have been no chances of reflections. I would love to see them in slightly warmer weather with open water, someplace I could get a reflection. That would be really cool. So you, and do we have a shooting star? Is that what that is? It's not a plane, is it? It's a shooting star. Look at that. This is a 30-second exposure. So you can see that these stars have started to turn into little bits of the streaks because you're shooting them with 24 millimeters. Remember, the 500 rule is you take 500 divided by your focal length. So 500 divided by 24 is what? Alexa, what's 500 divided by 24?
500 divided by 24 is 20.83.
That gives you the maximum amount of time that you can shoot the stars without them starting to turn into streaks a little bit. Now, at normal viewing distances, look, they all look just kind of like great stars. It's only once you zoom in to 1-to-1 do you really see that they're streaks. I'm just pointing this out as a learning. I don't think it detracts from this image at all. I think this is a lovely image, and the reflection and the colors and the little bit of the meteor there are all really nice. If I was going to edit it, this is a JPEG. I think, Adam, you've edited it already. I would be curious to see if I got a gradient and I came off here from the left side a little bit, just to, hey, I'm going to hold down Option and hit the reset button. Look at that. Do you see that? The effect word turns into reset when I hold down Option. Nice. I just want to see what it looks like if I just brighten that area over there a little bit to kind of balance. It fades into darkness so much that I want to see what it looks like and get a little bit more sense. And I'm going to bring up the shadows a little bit too, because that boat is white and you could see it, you could tell it's a boat, but it was kind of shrouded in darkness so much. And look at the stars have come out there as well. Let's look at that, what that looked like before, after, before, after. That's it. I think that kind of nicely balances here. We could bring this up a little bit more, and I want to turn it just a little bit. Got to be careful with reflections. Don't brighten them. I almost wonder if this looks a little too fake now. I don't want to brighten them too much because it will look fake. A reflection is never exactly as bright as the sky. It's always a little darker, so you want to watch out for that. But I think that improves this image just a little bit. I might also, what is that? A little other bit of water or something that's catching the eye, because it's just kind of there by itself. I would get rid of that and that. These are just little things that I think help strengthen the image just that much more. Nicely done, Adam. I like it. All right, let's go to another star shot. Oops, I clicked the map. Oh, we can see exactly where it's taken. All right. This is from Maxsense, Milky Way shot. I like it. Nice silhouette. This is where I would not try to brighten any of this because I want this just to be a silhouetted kind of landscape. I think your Milky Way shot is great, low, right across the sky from left to right. If you think about how we read images, we kind of start up here in the left corner or wandering around and we catch into the Milky Way and we come on down, it gets exciting, and then boom, almost dead center is this cool person silhouette that just helps us kind of visualize the scene and put ourselves here as well. I really like it. Maxence, you said you were struggling a little bit to edit. I don't know. I think I would, I'd come a little bit bluer, just a little bit, and I might get the adjustment brush and temp and a little bit more bluer, just to kind of get rid of that. Ooh, it's too much. And maybe bring its saturation down there a little bit. I just, a little bigger, and my flow should have been a little less. Let's delete that and start over. So just to kind of take that warmth off that bottom there. You see there's already a little bit of purple over there. I like that. Oh, that's terrible. That's really not good. What am I doing here? I want that to be very subtle. just to really kind of neutralize the color that's there. Is that better? Did I take the saturation down a little bit? I think that's a little better. Let me see before. It's doing that slow thing. So slow, it's hard to tell before, after. That's it. The other thing I would do is with an adjustment brush, I would, let's do our alt option and reset. I might just bring the highlights up a little bit more and the shadows down a little bit more and just kind of paint in this brighter area. But really, I think that's pretty nice. Just to try to bring out the kind of cloud of the Milky Way just a little bit more. Emphasize that contrast, strengthen that. Chat room, do you have any other suggestions? Let me move this window to the side a little bit and see, because, oh, come on, window. Stuck. Bye, Tim. You got to go. Max Sense, you're still here. I'm still editing the shots from the weekend in Utah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's great. I really do. You could, if you wanted to, brighten the corners a little bit, but that's really pretty minor stuff. Overall, it's nice. I do wonder, did you try one of the what do you call them? Flashlight shots? I'd be curious to see a flashlight shot as well. All right, let's move on. There you go. Larry, who we know is in France. He's previously shot stuff from the Montparnasse Tower. Now he's got a long exposure of the Louvre. This is great. I'm curious what it looks like black and white. Let's do black and white for a second. So we've got this yellow in here that feels a little funny to me. It's neat, but I think when it's black and white, it's such a clean, it kind of takes the attention away from that yellow color, which to me is a little distracting and really emphasizes this repetition of this glass and metal pyramid that they have above the main part of the museum. And I think I might brighten it just a little bit more contrast. Go ahead and bring that clarity up. Am I working on a JPEG? What am I working on here? Yeah, so we're going to do that. And also, let's get a gradient from the bottom and bring it up just a little bit and use it to bring the shadows down. Let's see. Yeah, bring the shadows down a tiny bit, blacks down a little bit, clarity up a little bit more. Really want to make that water. This is this kind of low fountain type stuff they have. You can see a bigger fountain over here, but they just have this water and these pools around it, and maybe a little bit brighter. I don't know if I want the blacks down. I don't want this data here to be completely lost. So I want to be careful about that. Do that. And I might get an adjustment brush and kind of make this even a little bit brighter and a little bit crisper. Really make it stand out, because that's the design here. We have this, I was going to say ancient. It's not ancient, but we have this older French architecture contrasting with this very modern, very clean glass and metal structures. So I'd like to make that brighter and very sharp looking as well. All of that. If you really like the color version, then I would try to work on this yellow and see if you can get it to be a little bit warmer. It has just the tiniest hints of green. So why don't we come over this way just a little bit and come this way. Just a little bit more golden, but right there. And I would soften this, make this a little less yellow, a little desaturated a little bit. Let's do it real quick. Let's use our Alt option to hit reset. Let's bring this back down to blue. Let's bring our saturation down a little bit, but bring our exposure and our shadows up. and kind of paint on this building, just part of it, and see if we can get it to look similar. See, we got that mixed lighting. See how green it is over here? Not a huge fan of that. We're really seeing my flow is at 50%. So I'd work on that area there. I think your framing here is fantastic. I love all of this pyramid with that building in the background over there. Very nicely done, Larry. Very sharp. Don't know what your shutter speed was, so you know your camera's capable of sharp shots. Wonder what's going on top of that building. Kevin went to the auto show in Las Vegas, and I don't know, you know, some people, these are fancy cars to some people, right? These are Shelbys. Is that a type of Mustang? I think it's a type of Mustang. So you got them lined up here. I think your shot and your angle are pretty cool to kind of emphasize the repetition. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars total. I might bring the exposure up a bit, just a bit. Just a little bit of dark here. These two darker ones are a little bit lost back there. But otherwise, it's a very sharp, very clean shot that I like. I wish that car was pulled forward. It seems to be pulled forward a little bit less than the others, doesn't it? They don't seem perfectly in line. But otherwise, very, very nice. That little highlight speck there. We could try to take it out, but I don't think it is too much of an issue. Yeah, there we go. What do you think? I think that's pretty good. All right. Shelbys. They're Mustangs. Let's say, oh, did I stop sharing? Was I? Yeah, okay, I must have been because you're talking about the Shelbys. All right. Hey, that brings us to the end of another, I was going to say fantastic show. I'll let you decide whether or not it was a fantastic show. I had a lot of fun talking to you all. I hope you had fun here, from the Grand Tetons to muscle cars to everything in between. I really appreciate your support. I'm excited about some of the stuff that we are working on. I'm partnering with David McKay. We're going to and folk, and we're going to bring you some really cool stuff in the coming months. I'm excited for that. Yeah, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Oh, right, I'm doing the show on Wednesday. I hope you all have a fantastic Thursday and Friday and weekend, and I will see you next Wednesday for another show. Thank you so much. Thanks, Trelina. Bye-bye.